There are a ton of ways technology, and more specifically smartphones, have dramatically changed and improved the way we travel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing a handful of my favorite apps that will no doubt improve the quality of your next trip. Before we get into the apps though, huge thanks to Packed for sponsoring today's video. If you're not already familiar with them, they make really high quality minimalist travel bags and travel accessories. I've been a huge fan of them for a long time. Be sure to check out the link in the description of this video, and then we'll also be talking about them a little bit more towards the end. I've been using skiplagged for several years now and still rarely come across anyone in my everyday life that has heard of or used this app. Skiplagged is a service that utilizes what's called hidden city ticketing. Essentially what that means is it'll find flights to your ideal destination for a cheaper price that don't necessarily end up at that destination. To clarify a little bit and use an example, I live in Portland, Oregon and take a lot of trips home to Detroit, Michigan to visit family. And because Detroit is more of a hub airport here in the United States, a lot of times you can find flights that connect in Detroit and go to other locations that are actually cheaper than a direct flight to Detroit itself. So you might be able to save $50 or $100 or $200 even on a flight to Detroit, booking a flight to New York or Miami instead of booking that flight directly to Detroit. I know it sounds overly complicated, but the app makes it really simple. It's something that you do need to be careful of because the airlines don't really like you using it. It's not technically illegal, but it's something that's highly frowned upon. You're also not able to use any checked bags when you're using that service because your checked bag will arrive at the location that the main flight is intended to go to. So if you're a one-bag carry-on traveler like me, it's something that is a non-issue, and it's definitely saved me a few bucks from time to time on some of my travels. It really seems to depend on where you're going and what time you're going, but sometimes you can really find some gems. Next up on the list, we have an app called Hotel Tonight. I downloaded this and used it for the first time about a year and a half ago, and it definitely got me out of a bind where I needed a hotel room that night, as the name states. Essentially with this app, it finds any hotels in the area that you're staying that might have a surplus of rooms that are going unused for that night, and they're able to offer them sometimes at a really significant discount to you. This is something that only seems to work really well in the bigger cities, so keep that in mind depending on where you're traveling. But this is something really great to check if you find yourself in a bind, or if you're someone that likes to travel a little more loosely with less plans, and maybe you want to get to your destination before you book a room and just look around that night to see if you can find an extra good discount. For me, I'm not usually someone that travels without knowing where I'm going to stay, but like I've talked about before, I do a lot of couch surfing when I go back home to Michigan to visit friends and family. And this worked out really well for my wife and I. We wanted to get a hotel room kind of spontaneously one night during a Christmas 2019 trip back to Michigan. We were able to book something for like $40 or $50, and it was a pretty decent hotel room, and it just all in all was a really great experience, and definitely has me looking forward to potentially testing or trying this further down the road, potentially as my main way of staying somewhere. So if you're a really budget conscious traveler, or if you want to have that safety and security of having a backup plan if your main plan falls through, I would highly recommend that you check out Hotel Tonight. I've been really happy with the service so far in the short time I've been using it. Geocaching is such a hidden gem for the budget adventurous traveler if you're anything like myself. Essentially, geocaching is a worldwide scavenger hunt app where people will hide things around different cities and areas and leave scavenger clues for other people to find them and log that they found them. It's not always physical items, sometimes it's just kind of a logbook, but it is a ton of fun and makes for a really great activity if you're spending the day just walking around and exploring a city. That's my favorite thing to do whenever I travel. Go around, test different coffee shops and restaurants and just kind of walk around and get the feel for the city. This is a great activity to kind of fill the time while you're exploring. There are literally thousands and thousands of caches hidden all over the place, probably even in your local city that you're living in right now. It's a ton of fun. It costs nothing to do, and I would highly encourage that you check it out, especially like I said, if you're someone someone that's like me, that just likes to walk around and explore the city. It's a great way to save money, have some fun, get in some really good activity. Reddit's obviously great for memes and pictures of animals and all of the normal stuff that Reddit is good for, but I don't see a lot of people utilizing it for travel in the way that I like to. I think it can be a really great resource for a lot of people, even a lot of non-Redditors, to find good local spots in the area that you might be traveling to. This can be something like figuring out where you want to stay if you're looking at Airbnb locations. You know, some cities, there might be areas of town that don't really have any good activities, or maybe have higher crime areas, or there might be areas that people would highly recommend where all of the locals hang out, or where, you know, the biggest mass of walkable restaurants might be. It's also a really great way to get local opinions about which restaurants or activities or sites that are actually worth seeing. This is going to depend a lot on where you're traveling. I know Portland here specifically has a pretty strong Reddit community when it comes to helping out tourists find good areas and things to do, but definitely any city I've been to, I can always search on Reddit and find good things. This is how I found a really great spot in San Francisco a couple of years ago with an Airbnb, and was able to hit a lot of really great bars and restaurants that were in walkable distance. And even some of the San Francisco folks that used to live there that I've talked to since then were so surprised and shocked that I found that neighborhood to stay in. Those are the sorts of things that you can't really get from the bigger blog posts and publications and Yelp reviews and things like that. So there are a ton of people out there on Reddit giving great information about their home cities. So definitely give Reddit a scan, you know, when you're at your location or before you go, you know, come up with some good areas to hang out in, sites to see, restaurants to try, bars to check out. It has been an invaluable resource for finding some of my favorite spots on my travels for the last several years. Everyone obviously knows about Google Maps, but something I've been doing with my regular travels since getting more into wilderness backpacking is downloading offline maps for the areas I'm going to be traveling in. This can be something that can be a huge lifesaver if you're going to somewhere that might have spotty cell service or data coverage. And for any bigger cities, this whole tip doesn't really apply to you, but if you're going somewhere that's a little more outdoor focused and might not have good cell service, you want to download Google Maps, go to the areas that you're going to be going in, especially if you're doing any hiking or, you know, getting away from town for safety purposes. Go through and download the offline maps for that area. They'll save in your phone for an extended amount of time, generally for the entire duration of your trip. And that way, if you do get to an area that doesn't have cell service, you're still able to navigate around and get yourself back home or back to your hotel or Airbnb or wherever you're going. Even if you're an Apple Maps user, personally, I keep both on my phone for this exact purpose. Before you head out on your trip, download those offline maps. There's a chance that you might not need them and you might not use them, but they're not going to get in your way during your travels, and they might really be a godsend if you get lost when you're out exploring. Huge thanks again to Packed for sponsoring today's video. Like I said, they make really high quality minimalist travel bags, and more recently accessories to go along with those bags that are equally high quality. They do all eco-friendly packaging and are operating on a carbon neutral basis, so definitely operating on a little bit more of an ethical basis than some of the other travel companies out there. I'm a huge fan of them. They are doing really great work out there, and most of all, they make really amazing products. I've been a big fan of them for a long time. I've reviewed just about every product that they've made in their few years that they've been in existence, so definitely check them out, give them some love. I'll put a link in the description down below. Huge thanks again to them, and huge thanks to all of you for watching this video. Thank you so much for sticking around with me, and let me know down in the comments, what app do you use for travel most that maybe people haven't heard of? And I do have one request for everyone. If you're still sticking around this long, I know I can ask you, what do you use instead of Yelp? I find myself still using Yelp a lot, but I absolutely hate them as a company and a service, and would love to find something that works just as well, but maybe with a more ethical company attached to it. So thank you all so much for watching. Let me know that stuff down below, and I'll talk to you in the next one.